top story in Hollywood this year is, as you might expect, all about money. But it isn't about the size of blockbuster film budgets or the scale of star salaries. Instead, it's the amount of money being paid to screenwriters that's making the Hollywood headlines. Traditionally the pariahs of the film industry, whose scripts were regularly rewritten at the whim of producers, directors and even the stars themselves, screenwriters have suddenly begun to be treated as key players. Screenplays have recently been auctioned for as much as $3 million. Moving Pictures went to Hollywood to find out whether writers really have achieved a new power and if, as a result, we'll be seeing better movies.
I have a theory that I think everybody in Hollywood is a salesman.
Oh, hell, when somebody pays me $3 million, I don't have the guts to call that a bargain.
If the screenplay hadn't sold for $1 million, I think we would have been very happy to take 500,000.
Now, people write screenplays that sound like four-letter word versions of Dragnet, and there is no dialogue to remember. There are bumper sticker slogans to remember. There's "Make My Day."
Everybody's vastly overpaid. They were vastly overpaid before this, but I don't mind it, you know, because it just gives everybody a raise.
The writers' strike in 1988 lasted 22 weeks and was the longest strike in the history of Hollywood. During the strike, screenwriters stopped all paid work on studio commissioned scripts, but many continued to work unpaid on speculative scripts with a view to selling them later. This led to the spec script revolution, with screenplays selling for unprecedented sums. Then, in June this year, Joe Eszterhas' spec screenplay Basic Instinct sold for $3 million, the highest price ever paid for a script in Hollywood.
The competition out there is so murderous for material. The movies that have been going for extraordinary amounts of money, the original screenplays, have been auctioned. And all you need is two people. Both of the movie screenplays that went for ferocious amounts of money were bought by ex-partners who hate each other of a company. And they got into what they call out their pissing contest.
I mean, look, let's be honest about this. I made $3 million on Basic Instinct, but Michael Douglas made $15 million to play in it. Prices are going up generally.
When writers see their colleagues making that kind of money, it says to them, I can make that kind of money too. I'm at least as good, I'm better. In a way, that's good for the business. I think that's very good for writers because they need to develop that kind of sense that they are worth the money, because without the script, there is no movie. And the business, right now, it is a seller's market.
I've noticed myself in 15 years of writing screenplays that there is more and more respect given to the writer, and that that respect is also translating these days into financial terms.
Maybe you'd like to hear the facts.
It may be a seller's market now, but traditionally the screenwriter was at the bottom of the Hollywood ladder.
You see, the body of a young man was found floating in the pool of her mansion, with 2 shots in his back and 1 in his stomach. Nobody important, really. Just a movie writer with a couple of B pictures to his credit. The poor dope. He always wanted a pool.
Louis B. Mayer would hire 40 writers and put them in cubicles, and they'd hear each other typing, and someone would come out of an office, and if the typewriters weren't going, the work wasn't being done. That's the way writers were perceived. They were perceived as components, people who, if they didn't work, the next string was kind of like a relay race, and whoever was still alive and still typing got the final credit on the script.
You saw people, sometimes really well-known, respected writers like William Faulkner and John O'Hara, who hired themselves out and worked from 9 to 4 in a little office and punched a time clock and did what they were assigned. Interestingly, they didn't do original screenplays. They mostly did adaptations or they did books, or they did rewrites. They were hired hands. And their explanation for why they did this was that the money was terrific and that their real artistry went into their books. So that writing screenplays became, on an accepted kind of literary level, a kind of second-class citizenship.
I come to screenwriting as a novelist. I was a novelist for nearly 10 years. I had a bunch of books published before I got into the movie business. The truth is, if you're going to do movies, you simply have to be prepared for the fact that it's collaborative. It just is, very often painfully so.
Please give me a call regarding representation. Thank you.
But even before the painful process of collaboration begins on a script, there's a subtle form of Hollywood torture known as the pitch.
Okay. Okay, well, it's a love story.
Uh-huh.
It's a triangle, really.
Oh, it's even better.
It's about how people change for all kinds of reasons, but no two people do it at exactly the same time or for exactly the same kinds of reasons.
I'm not sure I follow exactly yet.
I found it to be a loathsome process because you really do feel like Willy Loman hustling his goods.
I think it's a really humiliating and demeaning, demoralizing process. You go in there, I always feel it's like a scene out of Sweet Smell of Success, where you're just sitting there in this kind of cringing, writerly way, and they're sitting there in this kind of, yeah, come on, tell us something way, and I hate it.
Nick, how old are these people?
Early 40s.
Oh, boy.
What's wrong?
Well, I mean, the people who buy movie tickets, fortunately or unfortunately, are between the ages of
14 and 24. So?
So if kids want to see people in their 40s, they don't go to the movies. They go home, look at their parents.
It's true.
Yeah.
You see, my feeling is that specking is much more honest, because here the writer takes a chance as well. I mean, I don't go into some studio and schmooze some guy and say, hey, pal, I've got a great idea. You know, and I'll talk to you about it for 20 minutes and act it out and go through a tap dance and all of that bullshit. And then I may or may not, you know, write a good script. I think it's much more honest for me, simply if I really believe in it, to go into my little room, you know, write the damn thing for better or worse and see what happens.
If you write a spec script, it's not a diluted end product of some huge development process where, you know, someone's secretary said, wouldn't it be nice if
community writing,
two heads grew out of, you know, whatever, you know.
Manny and Brian first told me about the Ticking Man. I thought it was a joke. They said, we're writing $1 million script. And they kept on every now and then saying, you're going to get $1 million script from us. Then they started making a documentary about the writing of the Ticking Man.
Page 14, and we're...
Line 23, column 1.
We've made about, I guess, about $100,000 so far. Maybe a little more than that.
Another 100.
200, actually. And we're just hurtling towards
the highest purchase price for a screenplay ever. We fully believe. All right.
Let's just say this right. Let's just get this out of our chest. Anything less than 900,000 is going to be devastating.
Devastating. Brian said, let's not get off the phone until we come up with an idea that'll sell for $1 million. We said, all right, what the hell? So we just started bantering around ideas, and it happened. We're in trouble here. We're in trouble. I don't mind saying that. Page 2, and it looks like, well, our careers are going this way.
Just a review for the fans that haven't read the script. It's basically his science project has received a failing grade. He wants to know why. The teacher claims that his project, which is a bomb, does not work. And he has said, yes, it is a bomb. And the teacher says...
When everybody read the script, it was on a Sunday night, people called me up, and everybody uniformly said, Joel, this is a total winner. We're going to sell for $1 million. We never felt that we shouldn't go ahead and hype the hell out of it. It was a sure sell. We sent ticking clocks out, I believe it was on a Monday or Tuesday, and the ticking man is coming. That was the message, and that created quite a stir.
I mean, what a great metaphor, you know, the ticking man. I mean, you could hear the clock ticking during the negotiations on that one. It was like the whole town was ticking.
Hi. Big moment. Unfortunately, Manny's not here, but the bids are coming in. Columbia started in at an overall deal of in excess of $400,000, I guess, if you count everything. Looks good. We're waiting for the next call on the phone here. We can't be together for this momentous occasion, but it's just as well because Ian's only about 3 feet tall, and I think he would drown in the sweat because I've already sweated a foot and a half. You'd see it on the floor if I showed it to you.
The script went out, let's say, Wednesday, Thursday morning. And it wasn't that we told people they had to buy the screenplay within 24 hours, but because of all the hype and hoopla, the frenzy just started, the feeding frenzy for the script. So by the end of the day that we sent the script out, it was a closed deal.
Dun, da-da, Variety issue Thursday, March 22nd, 1990. Here in the bottom right-hand corner, front cover of Variety. Ticking Man clocks 1 million at Largo Entertainment. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Pointed out here on Variety. All this swept away, moving on to new, brighter pastures. Our lives changed, courses readjusted, lives changed, money arriving in 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, this is a scene from our script, The Ticking Man, and in this scene, Hockett, who's the bomb expert, has caught up with the Ticking Man, who's a walking time bomb, basically an android with a bomb inside.
Nuclear bomb inside his chest.
And this is the first time he's caught up with him finally, and he's confronting him. And I'll be the Ticking Man, and Manny will be Hockett.
I will be Hockett. I'm a person. You're a machine.
Am I? You spent billions to make me human, but you're surprised when I act like one. You didn't even give me a name.
Hockett pauses, very much aware of the Ticking Man's strength. Frank?
I was hoping for something more classy.
Well, that's the best I can do in a pinch. Hockett starts to whip out the machine pistol, but the Ticking Man catches his hand in a vice-like grip.
You make me sad.
Without warning, the Ticking Man strikes Hockett with a short, discreet, but very powerful punch. Ah! He smoothly catches the unconscious Hockett and lowers him to the floor.
Somebody please. This man is sick.
Well, The Ticking Man was a rather clever script that was one of the first to be sold. It was a boy. We described it as the old story: boy meets robot, robot runs amok, boy chases robot to save the world. So we felt it was a pretty good example of Schwarzenegger-esque writing.
The screenplays that have been making the headlines, that have been getting the most money, aren't necessarily screenplays that a lot of people would say, in 10 years, we're going to be talking about this movie. They're action-oriented, they're plot-driven, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I love genre movies, and I think we all do. The world cinema loves genre movies. But what's lacking in most of the screenplays, and I think most people would admit this, is resonance. They don't stick to you. You not only forget them after you read them, you forget them while you're reading them.
How's it thank God you're alive?
Melina.
Hmm?
Melina, I've got to tell you something.
What?
I don't remember you.
What are you talking about?
I don't remember you. I don't remember us. I don't even remember me.
Studios, of course, are looking for the next Batman, or they're looking for the next Lethal Weapon. They're not looking for the next My Left Foot. They're looking for movies that are going to be their tentpoles. They're going to hold their roster of productions up for the year, and that's why the big-budget action, cop comedy, action comedy, buddy comedy is what rules Hollywood.
Well, we are just up to our neck in Paris again, John.
Oh, well, we bought a script called Seawolf. We're doing at Columbia. You take this yuppie banker, it's based on the Jack London novel, and he is on a fishing trip, falls overboard, and is picked up by a contemporary band of pirates and has to overcome these obstacles. Well, that's a very relatable concept. When we got excited about the script, we didn't say, gee, it was magnificently written, and it's such a beautiful timing and the rhythm And the prose was so spectacular. It was, gee, that's a great idea, so we'll make that movie.
When I started, there wasn't that much money at stake. I got $25,000 for Apocalypse Now. That's all I ever got, you know. And they're getting $3 million for something now. And the reason I wrote Apocalypse Now is because I wanted to see that movie. And I think these guys now write them because they want to see the check.
Once upon a time, more than 10 years ago, the most successful writers in Hollywood were the best writers in Hollywood. And now, the most successful writers in Hollywood are simply the most successful writers in Hollywood.
So, if the spec revolution isn't improving the films that are being made in Hollywood, is it at least giving writers more power and more creative control?
Joe Eszterhas wrote a story in the New York Times explaining that the writer now has much more power, that he can fire the producer and audition the director. Significantly, 3 weeks after writing that New York Times story, Joe Eszterhas was fired off the picture. Now, he took his money and ran. You don't have to feel sorry for him for taking the $3 million. One can run very adeptly with $3 million in one's pocket.
They hired a director that they hired arbitrarily from the beginning. We were interested in other directors, and the director doesn't happen to share my vision or Irwin Winkler's vision of the script. So what happened is that we had to withdraw, because the only choice I had was to go along with something that I felt would violate my own artistic and creative standards, or to withdraw, and I elected to withdraw.
I don't feel the screenwriter has any power, and he was saying that screenwriters have terrific power if they're really tough like he is. And then he just got fired off the movie that he wrote and sold for $3 million, and that's wonderful for him and wonderful for his children. I just think eventually you don't have any power when you don't want to go the way they want to go.
I really think the whole thing is not unlike this sort of giant poker game when these spec scripts go out. There's this big game going on, and people are bluffing and raising, and you know, when you win a pot like that, it's a good feeling. And then, of course, the only difference is, you know, immediately you go into buyer's remorse. Did I pay too much? Could I have gotten it for less? Were those other people they were talking about for real? There's an enormous amount of verbal bluffing and moves going on, and the whole town becomes this sort of 8-seated poker table. And the price of poker just went way up in the last year or so.
Uh-oh. Brian? What's that sound?
That's the sound of the men working on the screenplay.
Play. Oh, don't you know? That's the sound of the men
working on the screenplay.
Basic Instinct starts shooting in January without Joe Eszterhas, but with Michael Douglas in the lead.